It's a very good morning to you too, Jess. It is Sunday here at the Adelaide 500. Another postcard Adelaide day. And a very good morning to my good friend Richard Crail, who just loves everything about Porsche Wilson Security Carrera Cup. Has been calling the action with me so far this weekend, and we are set up for their third and final race beautifully right now.
What a weekend it's been, Chad. Good morning to you. Good morning, everyone. Another picture-perfect day in the city of Adelaide here in South Australia. And it's a big day for the sport here with the final day of these 20th anniversary celebrations. Amazing crowd yesterday. Almost 76,000 people here. Expecting well over 80 today with Robbie Williams rounding out the celebrations tonight. We kick it all off with a Porsche Carrera Cup Australia race that promises a lot because it's been an amazing weekend so far and there's been some great storylines throughout the field. This guy racing on home turf has been one of them. He qualified 11th, he raced his way to 7th and then up to 4th place yesterday. Great speed in one of the Bob Jane T-Mart's Sonic Motor Racing entries.
Michelin tyres, and they've already completed a couple of races on their 2 sets. Any inside word on who might have the best rubber for this last race?
Well, I think the driver behind the wheel of car number 1 is looking very good. Sydney's own David Wall, the reigning champion, Porsche Wilson Security Carrera Cup. He starts from the outside of the front row. He's chipped away with it all weekend, but he was one of the few professional class drivers that only used 1 set of Michelin tyres in qualifying. So it means he's got better tyre condition than a lot of the cars around him, and that may play a role this third of 3 races all weekend.
Just a beautiful morning for motor racing in Adelaide, South Australia. Porsche Wilson Security Carrera Cup on track for their third and final race of the weekend. And this is how it'll line up. It's Jackson Evans, yesterday's race winner, alongside the reigning champ Dylan O'Keefe. A breakout season last year, going on with it here alongside the local boy. How about some former supercar drivers to watch out for? We've got James Moffat and Dale Wood in this field. Cameron Hill going about his business moving up, and Roger Largo will be leading the way in Tagoi Pro-Am.
There's only 2 drivers in that top 10, Chad, that have finished in the same position in both races so far, and they're in Dylan O'Keefe in 3rd and Jordan Love in 6th. Everyone else has been chopping and changing throughout the weekend. Yesterday we saw a new lap record set. It was set by Dale Wood. Despite the fact that he won race 1, dropped back to 7th yesterday, he was still the fastest car on the racetrack. So watch for the bright green polyfloor car to move its way forward in this one. 4-year-old lap record gone yesterday, now 121.9. These brand new Porsche Carrera Cup Australia cars for season 2018, producing the goods already. 2 really competitive, aggressive races so far. And last year in the series, it was the 3rd race that was always the most frenetic. It all builds. The tyres are starting to get worn out at the end of a long weekend of racing, and the racing just seems to go up a notch as they're fighting for the spots on the podium for the round result overall. So this could be a very interesting 10-lap dash.
Drivers were shown the slippery substance flag, or the debris flag, at the treacherous turn 8 on their formation lap, so something to watch out for as we get set to wake up Adelaide, the city of churches, on a Sunday. Line as they approach the centre chicane this weekend, and just about any race in any category. A few bouncing over the curbs. That was Nick McBride as they all find their own little piece of Adelaide real estate down towards turn 4. There's action with Jordan Love up the inside of O'Keefe. He'll follow his teammate Mike Armand through. Great move, aggressive on cold tyres. Largo slips up in the JBS Porsche, gets away with that one. It'll form a little bit of a gap between the top 6 back to the rest of the gang, but this has been a clean start so far. Hill on the outside, and we're off and racing.
Great start yesterday for Cameron Hill. He charged from 16th to 9th in that race, so charged his way into the top 10 in just his 2nd ever Porsche race. Really impressive for the young guy from Canberra. Great start for Jackson Evans. Even better though for Michael Armand. He gets to 3rd. Remember, he's progressed forward in every race so far. The big loser through all that was Dylan O'Keefe, who's dropped a bunch of spots down to 5th. Although he's looking to make some up. Round the outside at turn 9, gets the hip and shoulder from the young West Aussie in the 777 car. Couldn't quite get the move done.
And it cost him another spot, and there's Leanne Tander pulled up. Now this car's had a little bit going on left side and front side. That's been in left rear has been into the McDonald's signage at turn 8, and Leanne has pulled this car up. I think she's also got the inside wall with the front end, and this could be enough to bring out a Vodafone safety car here, unfortunately.
Making her debut in Porsche Carrera Cup Australia this weekend. Still green for the moment. You can bet we'll probably see the Vodafone safety car for that. It's been a trouble-free weekend so far for the series. No stoppages through practice and qualifying. And off the road goes Mark Sini in the Hallmark Property Group car at the Adelaide hairpin. Most experienced driver in the field is off in the grass a long way out towards the grandstand. And medical team already on the scene. The exit of turn 8. And you mentioned at the start, Chad, that slippery surface flag there from an incident in the improved production race a little bit earlier on this morning. Quite a lot of fluid right through off the racing line there. So it's definitely a one-lane racetrack through there. It is at the best of times anyway. And are we going safety car? Yes, we are now. Yes.
Just as the field was approaching that scene, James Taylor with his hand in the air pointing towards the screens. To his left, Steve Johnson.
And they waited as long as they could to make sure that they could get Leanne out of that car into safety, but there's still officials on the road tending to that vehicle, so they need to get a recovery done there and pull that car out of the way.
Very experienced officials, a part of race control here as always.
It's amazing that some of the people working the corners at this place have been doing it for more than 30 years, back to the Australian Grand Prix days.
Now, interestingly, Kralsey, the safety car boards went out quite late there. We saw the boards go out, then come back in, and there was even a few drivers jostling for position down at turn 9 after that actually cleared that area. So there might be a little bit of controversy there. I think it was Shaheen I saw making a move potentially on maybe Gilbertson down at turn 9. There's a little bit going on down at the hairpin. So an unusual start to the final race in Carrera Cup, but the field now arrested behind the Vodafone safety car, which is a Porsche, I might add. Great start, Jackson Evans, and he leads the way here in the final race of the weekend in Adelaide. So there's almost a bit of confusion there with what was going to happen with that safety car. The boards sort of went out and came back in. It doesn't matter now, it's all been rectified.
It was a very late call, and as I said, they waited a long time to bring it out in the hope that they could get that recovery done under a double waved yellow perhaps, but it's such a fast point of the racetrack. They ultimately had to go safety car, especially with that car parked on the inside of the road. So, exciting start to the third and final race in the opening round of the Porsche Wilson Security Carrera Cup Australia Championship. So deeply competitive this season. Perfect launch for Jackson Evans. It's on the outside of the front row there. It was pretty feisty behind. O'Keefe wasn't brilliant away in the Ash Seawood Motorsport APV Group car. This is Johnny Stephenson. Back of the field after being turned around yesterday.
Oh man, busy stuff. What a great start, Stephenson. Trying to pick off 4 before he even got to the first corner. Laid under the brakes, Taylor. Nicely done down there at turn 1.
It never ceases to amaze how many people just give up when they get to turn 1 and go straight across the curb.
Leanne got the inside curb, slipped out, swiped the signage on the outside and came in and had a fair old whack on the inside wall. Everyone doing a really good job to avoid spinning Leanne.
Almost caught it. Almost caught that slide, but ultimately ended up bouncing off the inside wall very hard. Just a little bit too tight in the apex there and grabbed that curb, as you said.
And I wonder if it's because she would have had a really good look at that piece of racetrack and thought, I cannot run wide there. There's so much oil and debris that had been left there from the improved production race. As we check out John Stephenson's view of this one. Oh, wow, right in front of Stephenson, and he was on the brakes hard. Wow, he backed off quite a lot. It actually stacked the field up behind him a little bit.
Ultimately lost a few spots, and that's Garth watching on from the Gary Rogers Motorsport pits.
And that is his wife in the car. And what a shame.
It's the universal sign for racing disappointment, walking away from the TV monitor. So this is down at the Adelaide hairpin. Dean Cook having a look down the inside, and that's why we saw Mark Sini off the road. Fairly aggressive move. And this is the stuff that's going to be looked at by race control, because there's a good chance some of it happened after the safety car was called. There's no yellows flying at that flag point there at the hairpin.
So that one was still at least under green flag conditions.
Yep. And here's Pete Major launching his car up into the sky. All 4 Michelin tyres off the racetrack down at turn 1 and turn 2. He's been quick this weekend. He's running 17th at the moment. Not an enormous amount of experience in one-make Porsche racing, though he did do a round of the Porsche Michelin GT3 Cup Challenge last year and qualified on the front row at Winton Raceway. plenty of speed. He'll be one that develops over the course of the season with the tutelage from Sonic Motor Racing. So it's Evans, Wall and Armand, 1, 2 and 3. Michael Armand just continues that march forward, doesn't he? Very impressive stuff so far.
And the impressive thing here for Evans, or what will really play into his hands, he doesn't even need to win this race to win the round. He's actually got quite a handy points buffer. So even if he does lose the lead to David Wall, who we believe has a fairly fresh set of Michelin tyres under him, he would still be the round winner this weekend, which is a great start. We saw Cameron van der Dungen earlier out on track in the improved production cars, and he's back in the lane. Good driving, Cam.
Yeah, thanks for that, guys. But let's focus on what's happening out on track. One of the people I used to race against, Leanne Tan, has been doing an outstanding job, and a last-minute call-up. Just unfortunate what's happened out there.
Yeah, it was. It was a last-minute deal to get Leanne up. She hadn't driven a Porsche before, so we took her out to test day, and she was getting better and better. And yesterday, she was actually doing really well. So the times have come down, and she is a pro driver. Like, she's terribly underrated. So it's just a shame that it ended up like that, because we were expecting big things from her today.
And Baz, you've been around there, you've been running teams behind us in the main game here as well. Tell us just how big a deal it is for someone like Leanne to jump out of what she hasn't driven in these cars before, to jump out of what she's driven into and then fire into a Adelaide 500 weekend.
Yeah, it's a big call to ask of anybody, really. And I mean, the car only arrived at the last minute, so she's had limited laps. So she's done a really good job. She'll be proud of herself.
Thanks, Baz. I'll let you get back to it.
A man who's no stranger to the pit lane, Barry Hay. Another one of those interesting motorsport families. His wife, Jenny, actually out at Ballarat for the opening round of the Australian Rally Championship this weekend.
And our own Cameron van der Dungen and Leanne Tan actually raced quite competitively in improved production racing, and depending on which one you speak to will give you an idea of how the results played out.
Okay, now turn 9. Now there's no safety car boards at this point, so they've passed the flag point. Watch Shaheen down the bottom. Has a crack, moves to the inside, so a lot of drivers are slowing down. And Shaheen's just decided to pick up a few spots because technically there's no yellow flags down here.
Well,
Pretty sure that's a clean move.
He might get away with that, because if there wasn't a yellow flag at the flag point after turn 8 where they cleared the crash.
There goes the yellow now. He's got it done.
I think he's fine.
That was actually quite opportunistic.
Yeah.
So everyone else is starting to slow down, expecting the safety car. Sam Shaheen's thought, hang on a minute, I'm still legally able to pass a few people. So that's exactly what he did. And now he's moving up inside the top 3 or 4 spots in class.
Rather unbelievably, he's never raced here before. Adelaide institution, and they're enormously engaged in business in the community here, and of course they're building the Bend Motorsport Park up the road, but never had the opportunity to race here, the Adelaide 500 before, so first time. He'll be enjoying it after that move.
So the safety car is out here on the streets of Adelaide. It's the final race of the Porsches for the weekend, Porsche Wilson Security Carrera Cup, and it was Leanne Tander slipping into the wall at turn 8. That was the trigger for the safety car today. Here it is, just off the inside curb, swiped the outside wall with the left rear. That part was okay. Unfortunately, it was the inside wall that did the damage.
2-week turnaround for this series. I'll be at the Australian Grand Prix in a couple of weeks for round 2. We're going to go back to racing. The Porsche Vodafone safety car is in pit lane. Jackson Evans will lead the field back to green, looking for back-to-back round victories. He won the final round of the 2017 championship on the Gold Coast in October last year. David Wall is the champion. He sealed it on the Gold Coast. He'd like to commence his title defence with a race win in the streets of Adelaide. And behind them, the storyline gets better with the local driver running third, a former race winner here, looking to win in front of his friends and family. There's lots going on. There's not many laps to go, and it's a competitive field, fighting it out the final few laps of race 3.
That was Nick McBride making the most of Roger Largo's tardy exit from the centre chicane. Just picked him off as quickly as he could, trying to move up. The DNF in race number 1 put McBride on the back foot, 4th in last year's championship. He's been moving up the field ever since. The worst race you can have a DNF in is race number 1. It affects the entire weekend from there.
Charged from 25th to 11th in 15 laps yesterday, and noted that with the addition of anti-lock brakes ABS to the Tag Heuer Pro-Am contenders, it's actually quite difficult to work your way forward, because where the pro drivers tend to carry an advantage is through mid-corner speed, but also the braking into a corner. He said we don't have that enormous advantage anymore. So it was hard work, but still passed 14 cars to work his way to the edge of the top 10, and he's now just inside it in 10th place.
Cameron Hill doing a great job running with this lead pack. So too Adam Garwood, one of 6 drivers making their debut in this category this weekend. And a bunch of young stars on that list as well as Evans. Speaking of young stars, ticks off another lap in the lead.
And the talk in the paddock is how impressed everyone's been with Cameron Hill especially, but Adam Garwood and Garwood Motorsport too, he's running 9th just behind Cameron. They're single car family teams. They don't have the resources of a McElroy Racing or a Sonic or an Ash Seawood Motorsport. They're doing it on their own, learning on their own without the advantage of having multiple cars and drivers to draw data from to compare notes. They're just on the inside of the top 10 in this competitive field. And speaking of the two of those, the young Tasmanian goes up the inside of Cameron Hill. Nick McBride's going to follow him through. Cameron loses 2 spots. Welcome to Porsche Carrera Cup. That's how they race. It's hard. It's very, very close. And generally, if you lose 1 spot, you'll lose another in quick succession. What's Johnny Stephenson up to out of turn 3 in the run-up Wakefield Street?
Nice. Committing to the brazier, hoping the ABS will pull him up. Not quite. He's got Timken and Crown on board this weekend. Oh, and yeah, he'll be pretty disappointed with himself after that. Proves just how competitive he is. Former Olympic and Commonwealth medalist. He's ragging it, trying to catch the field now.
And results or no this weekend, you can take away the fact that he has been fast. He has been quick enough in raw lap speed to run in the top 10 against this field in his 2nd ever full year of professional motor racing. It's outstanding. A lot of people very impressed. And the results will flow. There is absolutely no doubt about that. Battle pack all the way through the field. Tim Miles under pressure from Dean Cook. Battle in the Tag Heuer Pro-Am class. Roger Largo has been doing a superb job in that. He continues to lead the way in the class in car number 23. He's running 11th outright. He's been in the top 10 outright the first 2 races of the season. Very impressive stuff for the Queenslander. He's got Max Twigg just behind him, the 3-time champion in that class who makes his return. And word from race control that this will be the final lap of the race. Jackson Evans with a 1.1 second margin over the reigning champion David Wall. Half a lap to go. Here's the leading group up through turn 8.
Bit on in the background too as they fight inside the top 10, Hill and Garwood. They had to sort that out by the time they got towards turn 8. It was advantage Hill fighting his way back after getting caught up in some scraps in the very first race this weekend. Well, there's been a lot of expectation put on the shoulders of Jackson Evans, trying to follow in the footsteps of a former McElroy racer in Matt Campbell. His 2nd season is already bearing fruit in Porsche Carrera Cup as he'll win the race and the round ahead of some very esteemed company. Jackson Evans, he is living up to the hype and he will comfortably win the round ahead of David Wall. Mike Armand, that is a huge drive. Should still be Dylan O'Keefe, though, who sneaks up onto the podium. And Roger Largo, commanding return to a solo drive in Tag Heuer Pro-Am. Enjoyable first round of the new cars, 26 on the grid, clean racing through the pack. And put a huge underline under that name. Jackson Evans, he's one to watch for the future.
I like the job David Wall has done this weekend as well. He said, we don't quite have the car speed to challenge for race wins outright. Let's just get some points, kick off our title defence. There's the results. Evans, Wall and Armand, the podium. Dylan O'Keefe will be 3rd for the round. Dale Wood, solid debut for him in Carrera Cup with a race win, a lap record, and 6th in race 3.
Clearly got the speed. Nick McBride hauled his way back up to 8th. Congratulations, Roger Largo, picking up class honours ahead of Max Twigg in his 50th race, or 50th round, I should mention. Over the page, Sam Sheehan managed to finish 17th after a few sneaky moves, and Leanne Tander, unfortunately, not finishing the 3rd race.